The Dolor Factor is sponsored by Delia, a romantic paradise. Lime, value every moment. Illuminous, your transformation begins here. Rituals, grounds for enjoyment. And supported by the Cultural Development Foundation, Creativity, Culture, Community.
Once in a while, we all discuss many things all at once. We talk about our children, our work, the things we like, the things we dislike. Sometimes we talk more than we listen. I guess it depends on how passionate we are about that subject, and of course, it depends on who's part of the conversation. On today's show, I wanted to have a relaxing conversation with a young man who has many talents in the music and radio industry, but is also very opinionated about life and relationships. So I invited him to join me at Paradise Ridge at the Delia Resort in Saint Lucia to chill and to talk about the things we both love about life and the things that frustrate us too. The things we'd like to see our youth receiving guidance for, and how we can encourage each other to be responsible and proud human beings. We know it can't be a perfect world, but we invite you to join us on an anything goes kind of program. So stay with us for this episode of the Dolor Factor.
As an entertainer, I have seen many wonderful places around the world, but my favorite is Delia Resort. Delia is my favorite place to be, but the reasons why are difficult to put into words. Delia itself is a mystical place that stimulates unforgettable memories in a setting that awakens your passion for nature and evokes romance. This is a place for rest and relaxation, recreation, and even recreation. I usually go to Delia for a brief escape from the everyday, but I always leave revitalized and inspired. If you ever imagine what it is like in heaven, I believe you will get a glimpse of it at Delia Resort. Delia. There is nowhere else quite like it.
Hello, I'm Delia Dolor, and this is the Dolor Factor. I'm sitting at Paradise Ridge at Delia Resort in Saint, and I have a cocktail. Yes, and everyone who knows me, start laughing now because you think I can't handle this cocktail. Well, I have one on you. It's a non-alcoholic cocktail, and it tastes really nice. So, I hope that you've had an opportunity to think about the person I described earlier, and I know most people would have guessed it by now, because when I say music and I say radio and when I say this person is very opinionated, there aren't many people that I would say and say with a big smile on my face, because I really mean it. Well, my guest today, of course, is Shayne Ross. Shayne, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me, Delia. Congratulations on the new set and the new location as well. There, it's absolutely beautiful. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Now, you said earlier when we were talking that it didn't look the same.
No, it doesn't actually. I honestly, because this is my first time being here, I don't know exactly what I expected, but it has surpassed my expectations, I must admit, because you know we have the pitons right there. It's fantastic. It's nice and quaint, and you know you have the whole three-wall concept. It's I could see myself spending a few nights and getting into some trouble.
It's really it is really amazing, and I think what's amazing is. As the Dolor Factor expands, and as I was saying to you earlier, we actually are now in the UK and Europe.
Wow, congratulations on that as well.
Thank you. Awesome. We're in Canada, in the States, and we're in 25 Caribbean islands. And so when people see what's coming out of Saint Lucia in terms of fire, watching, you know, what we're filming at the Delia Resort, they're like, wow, is that really, you know, in Saint Lucia?
We live in paradise. It's sad that, you know, most Saint Lucians don't take the time to appreciate what's actually in our backyard. I mean, everybody tends to think that the grass is always green on the other side, which is not necessarily the case, because sometimes the very things that you think you appreciate about somewhere else, these are the exact same things that you have about your own home, you know, your own homeland or wherever it is that you're from. they appreciate that about you. You know, for example, I was in Suriname a couple of years ago and speaking to a number of musicians, and it's so interesting how many similarities that we have in terms of the struggles, in terms of you know, the lack of, I would say, foresight, if you will, on key players in what's supposed to be an industry. But I don't want to get ahead of myself.
No, see, now you know why he's here, because he has his opinions and
pretty much about everything.
About everything. And if I could just sit here for the whole hour and he could keep on going. But the good thing about it is that you talk about all different things, and it'll be very interesting because your opinion's always a bit different. They're quirky, but they're not weird wacko. They're
No.
just, oh, okay.
Because the thing is, I think, you know, it's important for us to appreciate somebody else's point of view. Not necessarily accept it, but you have to appreciate it, and sometimes that might influence you to just tweak the way that you think about certain things. And I'm fortunate enough to have, you know, a lot of friends and a lot of people that I talk to, and to read a lot as well. So it kind of gives you that appreciation for different points of view without necessarily accepting it or internalizing everything that somebody else says. You know, so opinionated, I think it's a good thing. Some people don't see it as that way, but I think to be opinionated is a very good thing. You have to be your own person.
Okay. So for the benefit for the viewers who don't know about you, I know we haven't got a lot of time, but let's see if we can get as much as we can of you in the next few minutes. So,
No problem.
right, so you were born in Saint Lucia.
Yes, I was born in Monrepo, which is a small community on the east coast of Saint Lucia. It's actually the same community that Dame Cessa Descott came from.
Oh, you had to throw that in,
I
didn't
had
you?
to throw that
Oh,
in. You have to.
gosh.
You have to. You know, it's a very small community, very close-knit, big into sports and culture, if you will. I'm very proud to be from where I'm from, because I think the childhood that I had molded me into the individual that I am today. You know, the anecdote that it takes a community to raise a child is really untrue. It's true. It's very true. I think without the support of people from my community and in my household, my family and friends, I don't think I would ever be the person that I am today.
Especially from what you were saying, you were a male-dominated family.
Yes. One of let's see, 8 brothers. One of 8. One of 8, yeah, between my mother and father. 3 together. My mom had my last brother after the relationship with my dad, and my dad had 4 other boys after his relationship with my mom. So yeah, and then in the neighborhood that I grew up, there were predominantly boys as well. My aunt had 4 boys. Most of the kids around the neighborhood were boys as well. So
well, that's
we got
really
into some
unique,
trouble.
because you know they say it's more difficult to have a male child than it is to have a female child. I mean, here you have all these males.
Well, I don't have any kids as yet. I'm not fortunate enough, so
Why not?
I really wouldn't. Just haven't gotten around to it, I guess. I don't know.
Would you like to have some?
At some point, yeah, I think so. It's not something that I'm definitely open to it. I haven't seriously contemplated, like, you know what, I want to have a kid. I think when it happens, it happens, and I think nothing really prepares you to be a parent until you actually are a parent. So when it happens, I'll be ready for it. But for now, I'm not.
But how did you manage to stay away from not having any?
Sorry
to ask. Because I mean, the things that you do, you know, you're out there, you're known to everyone. Very easy to get girls.
it just never happened. It just never happened. I can honestly say it's never happened. I'll be honest, 1 or 2 close calls, but it never really happened. It's just never happened. That's the easiest way to describe it, because.
But I'm sure you're glad that it never happened at the time, because the kind of person that I know you for in terms of being a responsible person, and I know that you still have lots of things that you would like to achieve.
Yes. I think that again, because you're not really prepared to be a parent until you are. I think that if I had a child, I think that it would make me a different person, probably change my priorities, and certain things that I would have probably wanted to have done, they would have probably taken a backseat, or I would have had to figure out other ways of doing them or defer them to some other point in my life. So it's really something I can't even say that I hold an opinion one way or the other. There are pros and cons to not being a father at this point. Actually, not too many cons thinking about it. It's like
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because a lot of people, especially I would say the immature, irresponsible men, they don't think that way. And, you know, it's a subject that I actually want to speak to you a little bit more in depth without having to think about, oh, we have to rush this. And we started about, you know, where you came from Monrepo, and we've gone into all different kinds of things, which is what happens when you and I get together.
And that's how we speak, and that's okay. I think it's necessary. A conversation has a life of its own, and as long as there are two participants who can speak about anything on a wide range of subjects, then let the conversation be alive. That's it.
So when did you actually leave Monrepo?
I left Monrepo, I think I was about 18 when I left for good. I left Monrepo to attend the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. My two older brothers, they worked in castries, and it would have been less of a burden on my mom to just have, you know, the three of us move into an apartment in castries. The relationship that I have with my brothers, I think it's special to us, where, you know, it's what it is. Where I wouldn't say that we are the closest brothers, but in the same vein, you know, there are no issues. There's no psychological scarring. There's no, you know, none of those things where you're like, oh, you hate your brother or anything like that. There's none of that. It's just what it is. It's just our relationship.
Well, it sounds like a pretty good one to me. When we come back, I'm going to ask Shayne lots of other things, and he's like, oh my gosh, what is it going to be? You make sure you stay with us. See you soon.